I'll add to that as well. So very important, right? Because we speak generally because of the guys on our show, because we know the average guy can't do certain things that we can do, vice versa. Back in the day when we were like nobody's.
Fresh is going to talk about this for a minute. I'm gonna up this a little bit here, just so we can listen.
Even my YouTube channel, people can go to my first videos. It was just me filming my clients. You know, I leave that stuff up there so people see it wasn't no overnight shit, right? So, and even back then, I just took. Listen, this is no bullshit. 2010, 11, I'm working in the gym. Shout out to Metroflex. I'm just a trainer there, right? And I take everything I do serious, right?
All right, let me move up a little bit because this gets really good right about.
No, that's not that much. If you look at it like you could do
that's
that.
That's a lot to dudes that don't get pussy.
That is true. That is true. But the reason why I say 50. And I'll tell you why. Like, I mean,
it's
like 45 or something like that. You're still good. It's a variance. 45. But the reason why I say 50 is because I know that as a guy, if you've gotten with 50 girls, more than likely you're going to understand female nature to a point where you could take a girl from, how do I say this, dating potential to like a serious relationship. And the reason why I say that is because my thing is I just don't want guys to get manipulated through sex. So girl game, and I'm going to say it, they could get mad at me, whatever. 9 out of 10 times, girl game is this. Let me leverage my sexuality against this man for some kind of compliance, whether...
Okay, you guys know all this already. This is nothing that I haven't covered in the past. So let me move up a little bit here in the timeline. I want to get to Mike. There we go.
That are dope, educated women that fuck dudes I know. I'm like, how'd that happen?
Yeah.
He complimented me every day. And I don't know. I'm like, wow, that shit works. You know what I'm saying? So it's like any man, I don't give a fuck. Any man can have any woman that he wants if he tries hard enough, right?
Yeah.
So does he deserve that? Like, nah, not necessarily, right? But sometimes women, man, they just, a man's presence, and who knows if she's absent of a father, and you know what I'm saying? A lot of women don't know how to really respect a man or know what a strong man looks like if they didn't have that in the household.
That's why father's so important.
100%. So us knowing that, you know, like guys that plan to have children, it's a 50-50 chance that you'll have a daughter.
Yep.
Unless you don't give a fuck, your daughter could be subjected to a lot of bullshit because there's a lot of bullshit going on now. So here's my thing. I don't necessarily disagree with anything you guys are saying or stand for. However, a lot of the energy I feel like needs to go to guys' accountability too. And what are we doing here? Are we only out just to date and not taking anything serious? Or are we thinking serious and thinking long term, right?
All right. So, and you probably have figured out what Fresh and Myron are going to say here in just a second. But again, this is an appeal to responsibility. This is standard 20th century answer to a 21st century problem. If you've read any of my books, if you've read, I don't have it up here. If you've read my latest book on religion, I talk about this in great detail. Responsibility is always seen as some sort of panacea, right? It's the cure-all for anything, for the crisis of masculinity. And again, this is a guy who's like, well, you know, what about the long term, this, that, and the other thing? And I have said this before already. About Kevin Samuels as well, is like, what's the ultimate goal? And here we have it right now. This is exactly what I've been asking for a while, is what do you want? What do you want at the end? What's the purpose of this? He was just talking about having women in a menage a trois or whatever. He's just talking about, like, you know, how some girls are on board. He's just saying, you know, like, you got to be a powerful man and then women will want to come into your frame. Yes, that's true. That's Red Pill 101. Of course, you need to have a world into which that woman wants to enter. It's so much better. And you have to maintain that frame, and it has to be authentic. Yes, 100%. The other thing is you still have to understand women's nature, and you have to understand men's nature as well. The problem that we run into here is his partner here in just a moment is going to repeat this, is there's this idea that responsibility is going to cure everything. Just be more responsible. I have an essay called Our Sister's Keeper. I'm actually considering doing a full episode on this. But again, what it comes down to is the world would be better if men would be better. Feminists will use this exact same logic. Tradcon women use exact same logic. Candace Owens, if you look at any of the episodes I've done about her and sort of like breaking down her logic, it's always about responsibility. Again, a guy like this, a guy that looks like Mike, a guy that is in his position, who's in that apex, he has authority. He has authority, first of all, because he's not married. I don't believe he's married. No, he's not married. But he has more authority in that position than he would if he were married. Yet here he is saying, well, what about long-term? What about marriage? What about kids? What about that? And those are perfectly legitimate questions. Again, something I've asked in the past as well. When I talk about Kevin Samuels holding women's feet to the fire, it's like, okay, great. So once you've done that, and once you've changed their minds about them, or once they've changed their minds about themselves, once they start flying straight, right? Once they start getting right with themselves or doing the right thing, what is the right thing? Is the right thing getting married? Because getting married right now is an all downside risk for men, particularly in Western cultures. He's speaking about marriage and long-term, and it's probably something that he would want to have. He comes from an intact family. He was just talking about his mom and his dad a little while ago. So clearly they've been together for a while. He has an advantage that most black men do not have, which is an intact family. Actually, that's an advantage that most people just simply don't have. But that's an advantage. He probably takes that for granted, doesn't realize that that's his lived experience. So when you're looking at the argument here that, you know, the end result or the end goal, the end state goal should be, you know, finding a good quality woman. And she'll be, because you focused on the bag your whole life, and because you focused on only your entrepreneurship or your whatever your hustle happens to be, going to school, this, that, the other thing, that women will just naturally flow into your frame. Well, there are plenty of very, very rich guys who have no frame because they have no understanding of women's nature, and they become the perfect marks, and they become even better marks when they get married. And in fact, that's the culmination of it, right? I mean, that's the consolidation of finding the guy who is ignorant. The guys that, and I don't know this for a fact, but like the guys who are like sort of the success hustler guys, they're building betas in waiting. Build it up, man. Be your best person. Be the best thing you are. Don't focus on girls. Forget about girls. Just focus on this. Just focus on getting whatever is good for you. Get to the gym. Make more money. And again, not a bad thing. The problem is those guys get to 30 and then suddenly they go from being this fat fuck and they suddenly become thinner and they look better. They put on some muscle. They're starting to make some more money. Then the girls who wouldn't give them the time of day, suddenly they come around. Now, should that guy now go with those chicks, or should you say, screw it, I'm going to go find some better chicks than you because you weren't there when I was fat. So why would you be there when I'm thin? You weren't there when I was poor. So why should I be there for when you were rich? Now, that seems like logic, but here's the thing: is that that's not what these guys are selling. That's not what they're saying. They're telling you just to single-mindedly focus on one thing, and you won't know, like, whether or not you go with the girl who wouldn't give you the time of day when you're 23, and now that you're 33 and you're making bank and you're more built. Now she wants to come around because she's 32, right? She's 30, 31, 32, and the chips are down. If you don't know that because you've been just single-mindedly focusing on one thing, you are at an extreme disadvantage. If you're still blue pill and you think, well, now she's finally had her journey of self-discovery and she's ready to settle down. Looks like she's flying straight, wants to get right with God. It's her epiphany phase, right? And you believe that and you buy into that, you are at an extreme disadvantage, because what's going to happen is later on down the road, you're still just as beta as you were when you were fat than when you're made, right? Then when you're rich and you're better looking because you made the most of yourself. There's nothing wrong. In fact, I say this all the time, is you have to focus on maximizing your potential as a man in this life. And I've always said, once again, if you have seen this particular graph, right around, as I said, 36, 37 years old, that's when you're going to be hopefully you're going to have as much of what makes you attractive and makes you arousing to women. And they are usually at the point where they need that the most at that time in life. I hope that I will reiterate that till I'm blue in the face. But if you are blue pill and you are 35, 36 years old, and you made partner in the law firm, or you did exactly what these guys say, is that just focus on one thing and make lots of money and it's all about the paper, and you don't understand women's nature, you don't understand men's nature, and you're still sort of clinging to this Pollyanna blue pill conditioning that this is the rule set that women are using, and now I can enjoy it. You are at a disadvantage. and they are at an extreme advantage. In fact, you are the ideal that they're looking for. Rich, in shape, and dumb as fuck. That's what they're looking for. That is what, and if, as Rich Cooper has said a million times, women don't care about the struggle. They wait at the finish line and they bang the winners. If you're the guy who just crossed the finish line because all you've been doing is single-mindedly focusing on one thing and making all that money and doing all that stuff, and you don't have an education in lived experience with lots and lots of women, with 50 women, whatever it is that Myron, whatever number that happens to be, you are at a disadvantage. You will get played. That's why you learn the red pill. That's why you learn game. That's why this stuff is important. And so when guys are in there saying, "Oh, well, Mike Rashid's blue pill," he got very upset about this in the comments. Guys are like, they're putting in the blue caps, right? And they're saying he's very blue pill, or maybe he's a purple pill. No, he's blue pill. He's alpha male, but he's still very, very blue pill. And he doesn't understand this because he's never had an occasion to learn this. So he cannot teach this. He cannot understand this, so he therefore cannot teach this. So when you look at a guy like Myron, or you look at Fresh, they look very weak next to this guy. Sorry, comparatively speaking, Myron's pretty tall and he's pretty built, but next to Mike here, who the alpha is, comparatively speaking, in this situation. And so he's the guy. Now, what's funny to me is when I was on the show in January with Hotep Jesus was the alpha on that show. I'll be the first to admit that. The women loved him. They responded. He's a natural. I've seen him in action. Hotep, Brian, I've seen you in action, and as I said before, very impressed because he defaults to that. That's his reflex. But if I go on that show and I'm the one who's laying down the facts and putting out the data and putting out the empirical evidence and everything, and Hotep's out there going, "That's all about vibing, man. I just want to find the right girl who's the right astrological sign," right? They love him. They love that stuff. They love that. They don't want Brainiac. And now in this situation, it's very similar to that. So
let me add to that real quick. Mm-hmm. So we tell guys all the time, right? Look, yeah, you want to go in there and smash girls, but at the same time, don't just pick a random girl like that. I'm just saying, look, if you like the girl and you want to see where it goes, go with that flow. Don't go like, "Oh, I'm just going to smash her because I want to smash her." Have some intent behind the dating.
All right, that's just okay. This is where his friend comes in. I'm going to end it at once his buddy. I don't know his
people
buddy.
Tell you who they are. You just got to listen to it, right? Mm-hmm. And at the same time, date for long term, but understand that, hey, you know what? Let's go on a bet that she might be for the streets. That way you're not going to leverage too much. You're going to be safe, but at the same time, you can see who she really is as a person and then go from there. But a lot of guys, they just want to get laid. They want to have sex, and I get it. But you got to understand, look, it's way more downsides to doing it than upsides. So just keep that 100%. In mind.
Where you at, Sean? You a little silent over there.
There's,
Sean.
I'm trying to decide where to jump in because I think a lot of where you guys and where we differ, because I think Mike and I are in a very similar position, is from the very most foundational parts of this whole thing, which from watching some of the clips that we looked at, because I wanted to have a little bit of understanding where you guys are coming from without just having to get it right now. Yeah. And one of the foundational things that I saw was that men are able to provide security and resources, and women have their sexuality, and they want from men those resources, attention, and security. Mm-hmm. And there's this dynamic between the two. But it doesn't seem like you guys are allowing for the blur that is real life, where there is gradients of both of those things that the opposite can offer. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Meaning a woman isn't just only capable of providing her sexuality. A good woman, or a certain type of woman, and they are out there, I just don't know if you've experienced them or not. I believe you probably have the ability to magnify what a man does, to take the energies that he has and brings to the table, whether it's financial or power or security, and find ways to do more with it. So it's not just what's between the legs that they have to offer. They can make you better. They can motivate you, and not just to provide more for them, but to provide more for yourself, to get the most for yourself, to do the most, to be your best.
But I thought it was all about the bag. I thought that by that point, you shouldn't really even care what that woman can do for you. right? I mean, if that's the whole thing, if these guys are just interested in just, you know, banging anything on two legs, then why would that even be an issue? Now, the reason it's an issue is because he's very, very blue pill as well. I don't know anything about Sean, but again, this is exactly what I would expect. That you want to hear the voice of the blue pill. Sean is the voice of the blue pill. And again, not an attack, not hitting back at you or anything there, Sean. I don't know you from Adam, but that's it, right? It is a lived experience that is isolated. And primarily, I think probably he's on there to sort of serve as this voice of, well, you know, we got to give one up for the ladies. In fact, he will say this a little bit later, and I think even Mike will do the same thing. Well, you know, men do this too. It's that standard default reflexive response. Whenever you say something that is unflattering about the feminine, there always has to be an equal and opposite reaction when it comes to the masculine. So again, that's what I expect from women. That's also what I expect from a feminized, gynocentrically conditioned man as well. This is what you say when you're presented with this. And that's exactly what he's getting into right here. Well, there are special women. Basically, he doesn't know the term, but he's just using NAWALT, which is not all women are like that. And again, this is a misunderstanding of women's nature and men's nature. Also, he also pointed out here just a moment ago, you know, long-term security. And I have made this case as well, is that women, by and large, for over the most of their lifetime, are looking for long-term security. However, between, say, 18 and 28 years old, that 10-year span, it is not about long-term security, not in Western cultures anyways. It is all about getting laid. It is all about finding the guy who is the high-value guy, no doubt, but looking for the guy who's the best sexual experience that they can get. Whether they know that that's the difference between the proximate cause and the ultimate cause. The ultimate cause, of course, is solving the reproductive problem. Having sexual selection. Women want to enjoy their sexually most selective years, which is going to be about 23 years old. Men, on the other hand, should, I agree, should hold out. Focus on building themselves up, but also learn about the nature of women, become red pill aware, date non-exclusively, bang non-exclusively, never consider monogamy until you are 30 years old, and never even consider marriage unless you are in the most unique of situations. And then when you can protect your assets and protect yourself, if that is what you want to do. That is not an endorsement for marriage. That is just acknowledging that guys are still going to want to get married and still going to want to have kids, and they're going to go against what I say anyways. So if you're going to make that decision and make that mistake or whatever, at least I consider it a mistake right now. If you're going to make that mistake by getting married in the 21st century, then yeah, you have to be protected. You have to understand. You better have rock solid frame. You better be red pill aware. You better internalized red pill awareness. And it better become a part. You better be the game by that point. And then also at that point, understanding your value, your intrinsic value to women. If you're this guy, if you're Mike, you don't understand that. You don't understand your intrinsic value to women. You understand that you've got lots of money and you understand that you're a high value guy, but you don't understand that what women's nature is really about. And so I think half of the reason why a lot of guys get really kind of vindictive, and like a lot of people say, oh, there's negative energy, man. These guys are angry. It's truthful anger. You don't want to turn into Rolo, man. It's truthful, but it's angry. It's like, no, it's not anger. It's just understanding the game and preventing and being cautious, right? And learning how to protect yourself. You still play the game. I'm all about, learning game, getting laid. Please do. Go and solve your reproductive problem. Date non-exclusive, bang non-exclusively, whatever it is, non-exclusively. But the reason, the how you get to that point is you understand your own intrinsic value as a guy, and also understand that value lasts a whole lot longer than women's ever will, because women's primary value, their agency, anyways, is based on their sexual availability and how hot they are. Simple as that. Hate that that's the way it is, but you don't hate the player, just hate the game. Again, I just work here. So you get this guy who wants to say, well, there are some special women who can edify you and build you up, and yeah, I'm sure there are. In fact, that's the first thing women will say about their super successful guy. You go and you look at Kanye West. I'm sure that Kim Kardashian, I'm sure that she will claim that she is responsible for his success. That's the first thing they said about Mackenzie Bezos when the divorce was coming down and they were saying, oh, she's going to get $33 billion. The first thing out of anyone, the first articles written by Huffington Post were, she deserves every penny of it because she was the real reason why he was successful. Yeah, that's exactly what I would expect from a female mindset. Well, there's special women out there, just not the ones you're meeting. Not those damaged women, just not those girls who want to have sex with thugs. A hybristophilia, that's just for damaged girls. Oh, don't worry that they have to remove female prison guards from the general population of men because they're fall in love with them so regularly. That's not female nature. Those are just special cases, isolation. No, that's female nature. And when you present that with guys who are all about energy and vibes and emotion and yeah, well, men do it too kind of stuff, this is the response that you're going to get.
So there's more to it that could be offered.
Yeah. So
it could be, but it is not. And why is it not? And I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm going to preempt Myron here because he's going to say pretty much the same thing. Yeah, it could be, but women will never, you as the average guy will never know that because for the most part, women are concerned with their own long-term security and they believe men are ridiculous or borderline abusers or incompetent to such a degree that they are beta males of such a degree that they would rather go to 4 to 8 years of school, accept a soul-crushing job and live and die alone or die alone like what Amanda, like the Giga Karen said back at, when I was on the show with them. They would rather die alone than reproduce with you. That's it, because they know that they have options. They're not, who cares? They all want to get with Mike. All the girls all those special girls who could really build you up and edify you and be, really instrumental in your success. They don't want you. They want Mike. They want him at the top, man. Yeah, they could. There might be some very special women. Again, it's not sexual market value is not personal worth. Women love to conflate that. And guys with a female mindset love to conflate that too. Well, women still are, they're very valuable. They can bring a lot to the table. But Fresh and Myron have built a very successful, almost 300,000 sub channel based on the fact that there's so many women out there that we can build a very popular, very successful brand on that. So yeah, I mean, largely the reason they're even on this show is because of exactly that. They wouldn't even know these guys' names if it weren't for that.
Here, hold on real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
The cycle's got to stop somewhere. And that's why it is so important that men own as much of this as possible, because if we think that biologically things are the way that they are, meaning like we're these providers of the security and the protection and the resources, and women are the providers of the ability to reproduce and the homemakers and et cetera, I believe that even with this cultural programming that's out there right now, the Cardi B mentalities and the city girls and the boss babe type of thing, even with that mentality being pervasive in culture right now, a man who has all his ducks in a row, he can encounter a woman who is of that sort, and she will still submit. She will still adopt those roles into what he's got going on.
Yes. If he happens to be Mike Rashid. Yes, you're 100% right. Cardi B will knuckle under to Mike Rashid every time. No problem. Lots of money, jacked as hell. Sure, no problem. Yeah, but the average woman is not. In fact, if you have to resort to using celebrities as examples of like the state of women or the state of a particular gender or a state of whatever, I understand why you have to do those things, but if you're doing that, it's usually because you're looking for examples that people are all going to understand. Now, is it a cultural thing? I love that. I love this because it's almost identical to the same rationale that I was criticizing Emma Thorne when Ryan was with me on last Sunday. It's all social constructionism, right? It's always because the society's gone to hell because men haven't taken responsibility. Well, it's either that or it's because women have innate drives and have an innate nature that adjusts and adapts to that particular society and actually creates that. So what creates society? Does man create society, or does society create man? Because I would argue that it is man that creates society. It is the nature, is the machine, is the beast that makes the social order. It is not the social order that makes the beast. Okay. The only reason why we do certain things, the only reason why we have such a hyper eroticized Western, we call it degenerate, whatever the hell you want to call it. But the reason we have that right now is not because the culture is, or because some Marxist evil Illuminati cabal of evil baby eating Satanists have decided that this is the way things are going to be. No, that doesn't work. Even if that was true, let me just give that to you for a minute. Even if that was true, it doesn't work unless people are people, unless human beings are a machine that have a predictive framework, that they're predictable enough that's, well, I want to get laid. Okay. Well, that it wouldn't even talk about like focus on the bag and not on women if there wasn't a biological impulse to go for chicks, to get after it. I guess I explained this as the crisis of motive not too long ago with, again, this was last Sunday. It's like, why do you do what you do? Why do you go to the gym? Well, ask Mike this. Why do you go to the gym? Why are you so jacked? Why are you so jacked? Right? Is it because, did you start lifting weights because you're like, I just want to be strong, be able to kick ass? Maybe that's part of it. But you know what else is a great part of that? You get laid. So women love you. You get to the top of the heap. You get to the top of your apex because make money, make muscles, learn game. So when you get to that point, it's because the machine wants that. It's because that's the way we're built. That's because we have an innate mental firmware. It's because that's where we're at right now. Society doesn't make men. Men make society. Simple as that. It's not that hard to understand. But when you don't know what else to say, that sounds like truth. That is old order, 20th century thinking in a new order, 21st century that has data that disproves all
of that. I've personally seen it happen. Yeah. And I think that's something that if the guy puts enough focus on himself, it'll still happen. And it kind of like can course correct this whole thing. If the guys are manning up enough, I think we can still like veer this thing back to where you're talking about with these traditional roles. Mm-hmm. And some women may not want that, and that's going to be their prerogative. But those women are gonna phase themselves out the game, or they're gonna have to come back in because they're not gonna get the man that they're looking for.
So hold on.
So this is the hope. This is the hope strategy. If we just get enough guys on board, and we get enough guys to be responsible and more responsible and more responsible, then we can course correct. This is also the idea that, like, what is it? Hard times create hard men, or create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create soft men, and soft men create hard times, right? This cyclic thing. And maybe up until the 20th century, that you might have been you probably could have convinced me of that. But that all bets are off right now. We're going into the wide blue yonder right now in the internet age. And granted, yes, human beings are still going to be human beings. We're still going to be motivated and prompted by the same things that have always prompted our human machine. But the fact of the matter is, we're not going back. I've heard this argument a billion times from tradcons, from red, well, guys who want to think the red pill, but like guys who are like sort of, the guys who is, alpha mindset, alpha this, alpha that, apex men, pinnacle of a man, pick any, like, let's see, pick any adverb, or go get a thesaurus and look up pinnacle or apex, find an appropriate alternate word and slap man after that. Those guys, this is the same argument. We need to get back. Marty, we need to get back into the DeLorean and go back to the 50s. This place sucks and we got to course correct. They don't want a red pill. They don't want the data. They want a time machine to go back to the 50s. They want a time machine to go back in time so they can course correct. That's ideal. And that's not going to happen. There is no pendulum. We don't swing back and swing. Oh, when do you think the pendulum's going to swing forward, Rolo? Never, because there ain't no damn pendulum to begin with. You go forward with this information. You go forward and abandon the blank slate. You go forward and abandon this old order way of thinking. And you certainly take the best of that old order stuff, and you certainly take the stuff that's usable and you apply it to yourself in the future. Because we're not going back to the future, Marty. Not happening. But here's the good news is you can take this fantastic data, you can take this fantastic understanding, this new awareness, and build a better future than you could by even jumping in the time machine and going back in time, back to the future. You have more opportunity going forward with this. All you have to do is abandon this stupid old order way of thinking. Abandon these old 20th century rationalizations and reasons and all of these things that sound right. All these things that Oprah is still talking to Meghan and Prince Harry about, right? All that great stuff. Throw that out the window. Lose the blank slate. Lose the freaking social constructionism. Embrace and internalize the red pill awareness. Go forward, young man. You want to know where you want the pendulum to swing forward? It keeps going forward. Because we're in a brave new world, man. All this cycle about good times and bad times and strong men and weak men, throw that all out the window right now. Because there's only one direction, and it's that way. And the guy that what the future belongs to? The guys who accept this now. The guys who realize that today's ideologies are going to set the course of the future right now. Understanding this stuff, having a firm root in empirical, observable, objective truth and reality, having an obligation to objective truth right now. Well, I'm stealing that from God's side. Sorry, God. I love you. The future belongs to you, not these guys. Unfortunately, they got lots of money, sure, but mindset wise, changing the course correcting. You don't course correct by pandering to women. You don't course correct by saying, oh, well, not all women are like that. You don't course correct by relying on old order tropes that well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Men do it too. Well, I realize that it takes a lot of understanding, and a lot of people don't have the time. They don't have the patience. They don't they're focused on the bag, right? They don't have this understanding. So don't shit on the guys who actually take the time to learn this stuff. It's a multi-field area of study for sure. So bear that in mind. I'm going to finish this out, and that'll be it for the day.
Real quick, I hate to cut you off, but look, I know y'all be like, don't read comments, but I'm reading them. And the level of disrespect, even while you're talking, is phenomenal, right? Turn his mic off.
I can't even read them.
He's a simp. I can read. I got my glasses on. They're being so disrespectful, right? Wow. And this is the problem, right? Nothing he said is unreasonable. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Regardless of what side someone stands on. But
no, it's not unreasonable, but it is untenable in the 21st century.
Like, these people are talking like, this is all right. Your doctrine, like what you guys put out there, is for these people. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But they're astray. Look at this shit that they talk about, right? Because my thing is this: like, life for me, I like to try to provide meaning and valuable insights from my perspective, right? First of all, one thing they're saying is not you're the exception. Everybody can't follow that advice. Most people are average. Okay, you could be average. That's fine. I'm not talking to you then, right? I'm talking to people. I've been saying this for years. Fuck being average.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you don't have to be average. That's a choice, right?
Okay, so let me throw this out there because this is actually a principle that Dalrock talked about, well, at least 2 years ago. Remember what he just said a moment ago about having a long-term relationship, building we got to course correct, right? Resetting the society, right? Marriage. And even Kevin Samuels will say the same thing. Well, you're not marriageable to women. Look, so clearly that is a goal state at some point, which in today's society is a dead end and an all downside risk for guys. We can talk about that, but the fact remains, if that's the goal state, if that's where we're headed for, apparently, and this is, I'm quoting Dalrock here, marriage is only for elite guys. Only real men can handle marriage. Only guys who are at the apex can handle marriage. And I have counseled so many guys who had this level of success, this level of their businesses took off. They're talented men. They're on top of their game. They maybe they even did it earlier than 36, but let's just say for, round it off, 36 years old, they hit their stride, they get married, all this other stuff. They don't understand the game that they're in. That's why I talk about in the essay that I talked about was betas in waiting, guys who are who get 30 years old and suddenly, they're the kind of guy that the women that they wanted to get with 10 years ago wouldn't have anything to do with them. And they can't understand it, but they love it. They're like, hell yeah, I'll get married. Finally, I'm hitting pay dirt. Finally, my sticking to my morals and my ethics and my perseverance and my blue pill conditioning, but all of this stuff that I've always believed about women, my beta game, I'm sticking to my beta game. And now I'm finally hitting pay dirt, right? Now I'm finally being rewarded for this. Yeah, conveniently at 30, 31 years old, because you're still ignorant. And you're making money and you have better, or if you haven't, you have the potential of making a lot of money and supplying that woman with a better long-term security than she could get on her own. And that long-term security is a necessity for women from 28 all the way till 98 years old, because that's what they're going to be looking for the vast majority of their lives. And if you're that guy in the right place at the right time, meaning you're 31, 32, 33 years old, and you have potential, yeah, of course you're very attractive. I'm very sure you are. And he's about to talk about these guys here in just a second, the average guys, but it's according to this mentality, you can't get married unless you're an elite guy. In fact, and statistics will bear that out, as a matter of fact. Only college educated people get married at much higher rates than people who are not. Now, people without a college education tend to reproduce a whole lot more. If you've ever seen Idiocracy, you know what I'm talking about. But by and large, marriage is for the elite. It's for people who are in the middle class to the upper middle class. College educated people. Now, they get divorced, of course, as much as anybody else. But that's statistically speaking, and he bears this out. And this is Dalrock saying, is that marriage is apparently only for elite people, that you have to keep working at it and you have to keep it fresh and you have to pay attention to her and you have to do and all this stuff. What I think is funny is these guys are focusing the end goal is a long-term relationship, practically speaking, marriage. And yet they never talk about the dangers of marriage because they don't have any lived experience of that. Maybe they know a guy who's divorced, right? But they don't understand the stats. They don't understand the larger picture of it because they're focused on one thing. They're focused on the bag. They're not focused on Twitter. They're not focused on the rational male. They're not focused on any of this stuff. They'll shit all over the fact that we say, hey, you know what, have 50 girls or spin more plates or hypergamy this or alpha widows or any of the other stuff. They'll shit all over that because they lack that understanding, because they think that their belief set is what will see them through. And that belief set relies on guys being elite and guys being so elite that they can make the worst contract, the unconscionable contract of marriage. They're so elite, they can make it work. That's essentially the argument here.
A choice, a decision or indecisions, and that's fine. My message is not for everybody. I'm not saying it is.
Elite love.
I shoot for go-getters, motherfuckers that's shooting for the moon. Because look, my father is 80, 70 something, 80. My father's 80, I think. And he's still shooting for the moon, right? I don't care how much money I have, I'm always going to be trying to get more, or success or whatever, elevate my situation, right? So these people putting the clown, simp, is this is, to me, this is a problem for when I'm trying to give people information, I'm really trying to shift their perspective. I'm not just entertaining. I'm not trying to entertain them or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But these people are not learning anything. You know what I'm saying? First of all, we don't disagree on anything, right? Yeah. But it's
disagree on quite a bit.
All I'm doing is my thing is more putting more energy to guys getting their shit together and level up. One guy said, well, if everybody levels up, that's the standard. That's good. You know what I'm saying? So This is very interesting. It got me in my head a little bit about solutions, right? And how to articulate some form of education for people to where they're not just people. I feel like people are just looking for the lowest common denominator, like the 5 pillars that you mentioned.
Yeah,
like people are only looking for the fuck 50 girls. This is what I fear. Shit like that, right? And this is the perspective that these people are clearly showing, and I feel like that shit is so is not product is not gonna. You guys are smart. These are not. You are not them. You know what I'm saying? I had a big problem with the comments. I had no problem with you guys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You guys are.
All right, that's enough for today. Now I want to hit on this one last part right here. He's upset about the comments, and now welcome to Twitter, welcome to YouTube. You've never had this before. I mean, I get you want to know? I'm kind of glad I'm doing this as a recorded show instead of doing it live, because I'm sure I would have to be fielding a half a dozen, super chats right now about all this stuff, and they would probably be very similar to the comments that were going on in this. I will put the link to this video, the entirety of this video, if you want to watch all 3 hours and 20 minutes of it. It's really good. If you can watch it in increments, please do. I thought it was pretty good. But again, it is lived experience. He's upset that guys are calling him a simp right now, because people would never dare call him a simp. You wouldn't call me a simp to my face. No, they wouldn't. But guess what? They are here from the protection and from the, from behind a screen. Well, they're cowards. Well, yeah, they are, but maybe they actually see something that's going on. I've heard the Tates talk about this too. Like, well, you wouldn't say that to my face. No, I wouldn't. But you know what? There's other guys, and maybe that's more important than understanding why the guys who are on the comments are actually saying that, because their lived experience, he doesn't have a lived experience of these guys. He doesn't have a frame of reference. So when somebody calls him a simp, it sounds like an insult, and maybe it is, because most of these guys are kind of like, spurgs or whatever. But maybe they're not. Maybe this is just observational to them. If somebody put in the chat, and they probably did a couple times, blue pill, purple pill, whatever, that kind of stuff, that I would I would give that more credence than somebody who goes, oh, he's just a simp. Yeah, but he said, well, what I talk about is not for them, and what you talk about is not for them. But here they are. They're following, Fresh and Fit to watch your show. So clearly it is for them, because they wouldn't be part of the probably 300,000 subscribers that they have right now. So clearly they are. You can't just appeal. And I've done this. I gloss myself here. Oh, I'll pat myself on the back here for a second. But I've always kind of prided myself on the fact that the rational male is for the everyman. It's not just for the Robert Kiyosaki's, and I'm glad that it is. It's not just for guys who are like, George Gammons, right? It's not for guys who are like Mike here, the Apex guys. It's not just for those guys. It's for everybody. It's for the 14, 15-year-old kid who's asking me in my emails right now for a private counseling session. That guy is just as important to me as the guy, as Robert Kiyosaki. And I love Robert. Don't get me wrong. And I'll tell you why later on. We're going to come to that at some point. But, Robert Kiyosaki's worth a lot. I'm not going to say how much. You can go figure this out for yourself, but he's worth a lot more money than the kid who's 15 years old who can't pay me anything, and I'm going to do a free counseling session for him. Right? That guy, it has to be for everyone. It can't just be for the spurgs in the comments. It can't just be for the elite level guys. It has to be for everyone. And that's, you want to talk about resetting the clock. You want to talk about going in a different direction. You want to talk about like course correcting. It has to be for everybody. It can't just be for elite people. It has to be, you have to work on the hearts and minds of everyone, not just the go-getters. Especially not just the go-getters, because they're pretty much ready to go. They're doing pretty okay by themselves. Maybe they need a little push. Maybe they need a little education. Maybe they need to go, direct them in the right way. Awesome. Who needs more is the guy who just doesn't get it. That's the guy who needs it. And you do yourself, and you do the rest of society, right? We're going to course correct. You do those guys no favor if you go, well, it's not for you. Women do this all the time. Star Wars is not for you. It's just for us social justice warriors who've basically, stolen this franchise away from anybody who actually loved it. Now we're going to go and put Space Karen in it, right? With purple hair, whatever the hell that was, Laura Dern. We're going to go, it's not for you. How many times? Well, what is for me? What is for everybody else? If it's not for everybody, then who is it for? That, I think, you want to talk about uniting the manosphere? You got to start right goddamn there. Goddamn right. You got to do that. It can't just be for elite level guys. It has to be for the 15-year-old kid who just doesn't understand what's going on. It has to be. And if it's not, then we're just going to I'm writing an essay right now, and I'm at the end. I'm stopping right now. But I'm writing an essay right now, and it's essentially, I don't know what I'm going to title it just yet, but it's essentially like, what are we teaching the Lost Boys? We have 2 generations of Lost Boys right now. What are we teaching them? Jordan Peterson's long gone. 12 more rules for life? Get the fuck out of here. Give me something else. Give me something new. Do you actually care about that, or are you just giving me another book that has 12 more rules in it? I'm going to write a book on game. Yeah, it'll be titled The Rational Male, but each one of these each one of my books has something else, I'm not just rewriting the same book. You have to have something new. You have to go forward. You have to build upon what we know now and keep going with that. And it can't just be for it can't just be for black guys. It can't just be for white guys. It can't just be for Asian guys. And God forbid, I would love very much to write a book that's specifically directed to Asians and Indian guys, because I know you got it rough. And I would, is that for you? You want to talk to those dudes? Because I do. I definitely want to talk to those guys. I want to talk to the 15-year-old Asian guy who can't figure things out. I want to talk to the Indian guy who can't figure things out. So I've decided to start doing personal counseling again. I'm going to do, group counseling as well, but I've decided I'm going to do that through Patreon now. So, if you're interested in Zoom call / counseling kind of thing, like a group workshop, maybe that sounds better. I'm going to create a new tier on my Patreon so that you can be involved in that. But I'm going to at least dedicate a single day out of every week to start doing counseling, because everybody wants it and I have to do it. So that said, you want to course correct, you want to build something new. We got to pull our heads out of our collective asses. We have to stop with this old order thinking. We have to stop with it. We have to at least consider that maybe we need to start rethinking about how we do things. Not why we're doing things, but how we're doing things. Because when we figure out how, then we can create a new why. Well, I don't want to, I want to go back to the good old days, the golden era, romanticized thing when men were men and women were women. Well, how about this? How about we go forward and we create a new place where men are men and women are women? Can we do that? How about that? How about we stop putting up with the bullshit and we decide this is what we're going to do and we stick to it? Can we do that? Would that be going back in time? I don't think so. We can't go back. There ain't no going back. It has to be for everybody, and we have to understand how things work so that we can understand why things work. So there you have it. And I again, about that essay, I'm writing about the Lost Boys, but it's focusing primarily on what are we teaching these guys, because they're not getting, like, Ryan will say this. He'll say, they're sheep looking for a shepherd. They are looking for the dad they never had. If you read my 4th book, you'll understand there's a whole chapter dedicated to the dad I never had. Well, okay, fine. You want me to be the dad you never had? You want these other guys to be the dad you never had? If you're looking for a teacher, a sensei, a guru, an instructor, a cult leader, whatever the hell you're looking for, fine. Great. Now, that's settled. I'm a teacher. What am I teaching? What am I teaching my students? What am I teaching my sons? The sons of Rolo. Somebody make me a logo. Sons of Rolo. What are we teaching them? How are we going to course correct the next generation, or even Generation Z? How are we going to course correct? How are we going to teach this generation? Because we're the teachers now. We're the fathers now. Remember, it takes a village to raise a child. Fine. I'll be one of the village elders. You can come to me and I will teach you things. But I think we need to be very wary of what we teach our guys, because according to Mike, we're screwing things up. These guys are just going to hear, all they're going to hear is 50 girls. No, they're not. In fact, they're calling him a simp because they're not. But he doesn't understand that. He doesn't understand when people call him like a blue pill, because this is not his wheelhouse, not his circus, not his monkeys. And so he doesn't have any frame of reference. So he sees it as an insult. I get it. I would see the same thing if I was unfamiliar. I'd probably be pretty pissed off. Especially if I have built myself up and look at me. I'm at the top of the heap. How can you not love me? No. Get down, get your hands dirty. It's time to get your hands dirty. And if you're unwilling to do that, then step aside, because there's a lot of other guys who want to be the village elders, right? Who want to be the guys who are going to help out. And he was right about one thing. I do agree with this. We need solutions. I'm not going to say prescriptions. I'm going to say solutions. How we come to those solutions might require individual prescriptions, but we do need solutions. And John from Modern Life Dating, thank you, my friend. You're the one who implanted that in my brain. We do need solutions, and that's what I'm focusing on right now. That's why I'm writing the game book. So there you have it. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Thank you for watching. This has been The Rational Male. I don't know what episode. I don't necessarily care. And thank you very much for the 100,000 subscriptions. I'm going to try to get that little plaque and maybe put it on the wall for a little bit anyways. I'm not going to, is that a flex? I don't know. Maybe it's a flex. So I'm going to get that. I'll make a big deal out of that. But thank you. I think I'm at 108 now. So thank you very much for that, guys. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. All right, guys. Thank you very much. I will see you guys later, and bye-bye.